Hello and very welcome to this live stream with Alternative for Sweden. With me today I have Stefan Korte, who is a representative of the Alternative for Germany. Vi kommer att ha hela den här livestreamen på engelska. Den ska inte tyska utan vi kör på engelska. Och den går ut på våra olika sociala medier. Vi gör så att vi drar igång samtalet nu direkt. So, Stefan, very welcome to this live stream.
Thank you very much. Tack ska du ha.
Truly appreciated. You've been visiting us in Sweden a few years ago in Stockholm when you held a speech before the election campaign. And now you have finished the campaign in Germany. So first and foremost, I wanted to ask you about your position in the party so that people get a clue of who you are and what you're working with. And then I would ask for some brief comments about your general perception of the result.
Okay. So first of all, I'm a member of the AfD for 9 years almost. And at this point, I'm an elected member of the city council of my city, which is called Lauchhammer. And I'm an elected member of the district council of our area, which is called Oberspreewald-Lausitz. And on top of that, I'm the chairman of both factions in the city council and in the district council at this point. And yeah, I'm also second chairman of our party section for our area, but yeah, too much work anyway.
All right. And the result came in yesterday. What's your position or your comments both on the AfD result and also the other parties?
Yeah. Well, the election were extremely successful for the AfD, even though some of us would have expected even a little bit more than that. But we were actually able to double the result compared to the previous results we had, from 10.4 in 2021 to 20.8, which is an amazing result. Regarding the other parties, I would say it was expected that still the CDU would win this election due to certain reasons, which would take a bit more time to discuss. But then in the end, at least the Social Democrats got their share, or their a bit of a payback. Let's say it. They lost about half of their former previous percentages, and of course the Greens lost a few, which I still can't understand, that after everything that happened in Germany, people would still vote for the Greens, which is something that is actually not understandable at all.
Exactly. Regarding the result for the AfD, as you mentioned, the last election, this election was almost the double support compared to the last election, so around 20% instead of around 10%. The last election was a bit of a failure, with even a drop of 2%, I think, compared to the election before.
Yes.
What has happened since then? Why that, so to say, disappointing result, and why this remarkable success?
Yeah, I think society and the politics in Germany happened, so to say. Well, at 10.4% was a time when things were still running. Businesses were still running. We didn't have the incidents with the pipelines and the traffic light, so the so-called traffic light government wasn't in place at that time. So and of course we had the the typical mainstream media propaganda against our party, which was still successful in these days. But now, I mean, so many things happened, like everyday murder and rape in the streets of Germany, committed by so-called refugees. We had the pipeline incident. We had regarding that.
You mean the
Nord Stream 2 incident?
Yeah, the state terror attack.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting to see that nobody except for the AfD was interested in an investigation. Like, not even the CDU, which supposed to be conservative, which they aren't, but not even they were interested in finding out what actually happened. And I mean, this incident was so extremely terrible for the German economy that we should all be interested in what actually happened. But and all this like the laws which were implemented by the Green parties and their associates, like the liberals and the socialists, and everything that happened during these 3 years were so tremendous and so problematic for the society, for the economy, that people started to realize that there's something going on. Something is wrong in this country, with all these, as I mentioned earlier, with all these murders, with all these things happening, like these terror attacks on our Christmas markets and all these things. People starting to realize that something is wrong in our society, and that's the reason why our party started to gain percentages again. And of course, our politics, the politics we make, when we talk about our points, we are always straightforward. We say what's happening. We say what's happening on the streets. We don't make up any kind of pretty picture because we would assure the people that everything is fine. No, we tell them these things are wrong, and if we want to rescue Germany from sure demise, we have to act with strict measures. Otherwise, Germany, as we know it, will perish.
Very interesting. So, would you say that foreign policy and immigration policy have been the two drivers of the AfD success? Now you point out the Nord Stream terror attack and the mass immigration to Germany. Are these the two issues where you are really, let's say, dominating compared to the other parties?
I think, of course, you always have to ask the question: what is important for the society? What is important for the people? What matters from their point of view? And I think, of course, immigration is a very big point because, as I said, there are too many things, too many bad things happening almost every day. Sometimes 4 to 5 incidents a day, like stabbing, like raping, like pushing people in front of trains, driving with cars through Christmas markets and other events. So, of course, and this is what scares people. And as you know, in politics, you can move people. The easiest way to move people or to make up their minds is with scaring them, which is not what the AfD does. But of course, if we say we have to change politics because this is happening, I mean, the people see it in the news. They see it on the streets as eyewitnesses, and of course, this is something that moves the people, and this is the only party in Germany that really says what has to be done. For example, remigration, sending back people which are criminal, which are illegally in Germany, and all these people, we have to send them back because they are not only a threat, but of course they do cost a lot of money as well. It's all taxpayers' money. And this is what these we call them the old parties. This is what they forget. They are dealing and they are spending taxpayers' money. Yeah, not 80, 90, 100 years ago, in the time from the German emperor. Yeah, the politicians were aware of the fact that it is the sweat of the people. Yeah? People have to work for that, and they work hard. And what the government at this point and what these old parties are doing, they're just wasting people's money.
I don't think they realize that they couldn't care less, because they consider it to be their money. It's always politicians' money, the state's money, and they don't. But who paid the money from the beginning? Where did you get the money from?
Exactly.
No, it's my money, they say. But and if they give something to us, we should be very happy and grateful for that.
Oh yeah.
So regarding immigration, it seems that the other parties are very weak, and they are responsible for the "Wir schaffen das" policy. Even if you speak
makes
about
it
the CDU, and it's supported by the Social Democrats, the Greens, the FDP. So in terms of immigration, it seems that Alternative for Germany is the only alternative for anyone who wants a stricter immigration policy. When it comes to foreign policy, I got a question here. Do you speak about Nord Stream in Germany? I mean, is it up for public debate? Because in Sweden, it's not. And I think a lot of people in Sweden don't even know what happened to Nord Stream, or they don't care at all. Even though Nord Stream actually went on the Swedish economic zone.
Yeah.
But in Germany, perhaps it's been a bigger debate because Germany is more connected to Russia in terms of economic policy, and historically has been relatively close to Russia when it comes to trade and so on.
Well, I mean, we have to be aware of the fact that Germany is reliant on cheap gas, on cheap energy, because otherwise we can't compete with the world market. Yeah. I mean, of course, we still can say, oh, well, look at our products made in Germany, good quality, but that is not always the case anymore. And so, of course, we have to be able to compete with the world market. And this is only possible if we have cheap energy resources like gas and electricity. And of course, the only party that speaks about the issue is the AfD. And we are the only party that, as I said, demands an investigation of that. And the people in Germany, especially, I guess, in the eastern part, because they are more aware of strange things that are going on in the government. I'm not sure. I mean, it always seems like the people in the western part are still kind of sleeping, slowly waking up, as we see in the results. But still more sleepy than in the eastern part. Anyway, the discussion, we talk about it, we discuss this issue, but but the media itself, the mass media, they are just simply ignoring it because they don't see no necessity to clear it up, even though it is the major point, the major issue why Germany lost its economic power for a certain. I mean, if we look at it from a German perspective, we say, okay, there are so many issues like combustion engine prohibition, which comes from these this traffic light coalition, but also the end of German nuclear power plants, which also comes already from Mrs. Merkel. Yeah, wir schaffen das, Mrs. Merkel, who decided this. And all these decisions, they lead to big problems with the German economy. So yeah, I mean, in fact, the people would like to talk about it, but the media ignores this demand.
And with this traffic light coalition, you mean the Greens?
We call the traffic light coalition Ampelkoalition, because it's the green, the red, and the yellow. So like it looks like a traffic light, and we have this nice saying from wenn die Ampel aus ist, gilt rechts vor links.
Okay, if the traffic light's not working, go left or right.
Yeah. I thought you might you want to translate it to Swedish.
So but for those not totally informed about German politics, you have the Union, the CDU, which would probably be compared to the moderate party in Sweden, Moderaterna, like a fake conservative party.
Yeah. Fake is. It's
but it's the same case in every Western European country, that you have the center-right traditional party that claims to be conservative and might still use it as their ideology, but agrees with the left-wing Social Democrat Party on virtually every question. And it's the same in Sweden with the Social Democrats and the Moderate Party. It's basically the same party, but they are, let's say, branding themselves towards different groups in the society, where the left-wing party is more for the workers, or was for the workers. Now they are more for the migrants, and the so-called right-wing party is more for the let's say, the upper middle class people. But these two parties, they are usually portrayed as some kind of opponents, but in reality they are always cooperating with each other in the big questions, right?
Yeah, I mean, as you know, I worked 5 years in the federal parliament in Germany. So I saw them all in private. Yeah, I know that Mrs. Merkel, for example, I mean, you can't enter the federal the federal parliament, the Bundestag. You can't enter them without a proper pass. So it's very secure. But Mrs. Merkel was the only person which really decided to have 3 personal guards with her at all the time, at any time, in the parliament. So that was a strange observation I made, but
it's like a bit of a paranoia increasing, perhaps.
I think many of them do have a paranoia, because it proves also the fact that they are establishing, they build a huge how do you say that in English? Graben. You know what it is in German? No, it isn't. Don't.
It's like a bunker.
No, that's a bunker, and that is a bit different thing. No, but they're really trying to shut off society from their area.
Yeah.
It's wait a second.
Yeah, I know what you mean. That they are living in, let's say, in isolation from the rest of the society.
I should have opened my dictionary in the beginning, because there's always a word that's missing somewhere.
Yeah, but, I think people understand the meaning anyway.
Yeah, but it's.
I mean, you have
I'm a nitpicking German, you know.
Yeah. Details must be correct. That's how we like it.
Ditch I was talking about. They're building a
the ditch. Yeah, okay.
And this ditch. Yeah, well.
So you mean you have
the Reichstag, and it's like absolutely ridiculous. It costs a couple of millions, but but they don't care. Yeah, they absolutely don't care.
You have society here, and then you have the politicians here with some kind of wall between them, almost like the wall separating the Western Germany from Eastern Germany. I think you have the same problem in Sweden, or at least it's getting increasingly difficult for ordinary people and also for some journalists to visit the Swedish parliament, because they consider it their own. They don't consider it to be the people's parliament, but rather the politicians' own parliament. And they are only looking to get questions from, let's say, mainstream media journalists who will never ask them any difficult questions.
Sure.
And I mean, if if you want to ask a question to any politician when they're visiting a city or something, it's almost impossible because they will have 5, 6 press secretaries that will put people away in order for them not to have to answer any questions. And that's why I've been targeting some politicians in Finland where they are not bringing their own entourage with them. So I've been relatively successful in asking questions to politicians when they are visiting Finland or on some bilateral meeting. But if you do it in Sweden, it's almost impossible. But in terms of this coalition, the Ampel coalition, now the Alternative for Germany has made a strong result. You're above 20%. The Social Democrats failed completely. They lost millions of votes. But the CDU made a very strong election. So the CDU was, increasing strongly. Are they now cooperating with the Social Democrats for a grand coalition?
I'm pretty sure this will be the case. I mean, I think they finished the CDU with the CSU in coalition. They finished with 28.6%, which isn't a good result for the CDU if you compare it with former results.
So historically, it's weak.
Historically, it is just an average result. Anyway, we see that the Bundestag at this point there is currently 629 seats, and means the absolute majority is reached with 315 seats, and a coalition of the CDU with the Greens would be not sufficient. It would be not enough seats, so they wouldn't have the majority they need. So I guess the only option is a large coalition, which we call it, between the Social Democrats and the CDU. I just read, just before we started our little conversation here, I just read that they already are in a quarrel yesterday evening in any kind of show they were participating. So it still remains interesting if they're gonna find a common ground. Merz announced that they want to he wants to found a coalition until Easter. So we see if they will be successful with that.
Interesting, but then it seems likely that in the short term there will not be any major changes in Germany, despite the good election result for the Alternative for Germany.
No, Germany is, if you ask me, which is the case, still the loser. Germany remains the loser, and it will continue. The politics will continue in many areas in the same or in a similar way, because the policy of the CDU does not differ significantly from the politics of the SPD or the Greens. And as I just said, we shouldn't forget that the closure of the German nuclear power plants was initiated by the CDU. And well, let's say all these issues will definitely show us that the politics will not, as I said, will not differ. I mean, they even decided just a couple of days ago, they decided to vote for a law which will raise the prices for fuel because about this CO2 trade they do in the EU, which lead to the fact that the fuel prices in Germany will raise about 60 or 70 cents per liter in I think next year, which leads to the point where people say, all right, this is impossible. I can't afford a car at this point anymore because I can't afford the fuel. So yeah, indeed. I mean, what we will expect, especially from these from the CDU, is that they might get us in trouble with on a foreign, in terms of foreign policy. because Merz is still someone who's following up the idea of still supporting the Ukraine, even though Trump decided to try to finish and end this war, and he also decided to not involve Europe, which is, as a German, as a European, something I have to support, because when you see what kind of politics or foreign politics is made in Europe by any country at this point, it is absolutely ridiculous. It seems like they still want this war to go on no matter what.
If you follow Swedish media, there are some reports that the German government has been a bit more skeptical towards the Western proxy war in Ukraine, and that Olaf Scholz was hesitant towards sending weapons in the same amounts as other Western European countries. Has that been the case? And is there a shift now to the Union Party, where the Union Party is, let's say, more typically globalist in these questions? Or has Germany been like any other Western European country when it comes to supporting the globalist proxy war?
I think Germany was even worse.
All right.
And because they started very soon to support the Ukraine with weapons, and I had a program about it a couple of months ago, and I also wrote about it in my book, which I wrote in 22. That they spent it already, I think 11 billion euros, and it's still gaining, and they're still planning on supporting the Ukraine. So it was at the very beginning, Scholz was a bit was hesitating to support the Ukraine with the main battle tanks, for example, with the Leopard. But it took about not even a week. And it took just a bit of blackmailing from the Poles to say, all right, we will deliver the Leopard anyway, even though we have a contract with Germany, but we don't care about contracts. But that's what the Poles did early on, when there was this discussion about delivering main battle tanks. But then after that, yeah, this coalition was delivering material to the Ukraine and spending taxpayers' money by the billions without really having any kind of bad conscience about that.
Yeah, I see. So, and I guess that the CDU and the Social Democrats do not differ at all in this question.
Well, I mean, there is just this one point where Scholz was still hesitating. I think maybe this is what you're referring to. We are talking about the Taurus cruise missile. He was still rejecting that idea to deliver Taurus missiles to the Ukraine, which is something that Merz is supporting. And he repeatedly supported that idea by saying that if Putin is not willing to discuss certain terms of certain peace or negotiations and certain terms in that regard, he would be ready to deliver Taurus cruise missiles to the Ukraine, which would be something like the next level of escalation.
And were they delivered?
No, they're not. But let's see what's happening, because I mean, Merz was willing to do so, and he said before the elections, he said it several times, that if he becomes chancellor and Russia will not give in on certain terms, that he's ready to deliver these cruise missiles.
I see. Well, let's see if there's a peace in Ukraine, if Germany will still send their weapons.
But the unfortunate thing is, Gustav, that it's not only Germany that's completely
Yeah,
out of their mind.
you don't have to remind me about my country, Sweden. I mean,
the whole Europe is completely gone bonkers, I would say, because they are still willing to support the Ukraine, even though the Russians and the United States, they are talking with each other. They are trying to negotiate peace in the Ukraine. And even though Trump says very, very strictly that many things would have been went completely the wrong way, and peace could have been established already since 2 years minimum. Still, the Europeans are willing to support the Ukraine in any possible way. And I don't know if you heard about it, but there was this announcement in the German press that Annalena Baerbock said something that she was not supposed to say before the elections, that they are willing to spend, only Germany alone, which is completely crazy, 700 billion euros, which would mean, of course, that Germany have to put himself into debt. But they are still willing to do so against the will of the German people, just to support this complete strange idea about Ukraine winning a war against Russia.
And especially against the will of the Ukrainians, because a vast majority of the Ukrainians want to see a negotiated peace now as well. So, I mean, whose interests are you really fighting for? Not your own people's, not the Ukrainian people's, perhaps the big weapon manufacturers. And
well, if you see what happened to the soil, to the Ukrainian soil in the last 3 years, and to whom it was sold, I think you find the answer there.
Yeah, BlackRock. I got a question if this is really live, and yes, this is really live. It's not produced from before. We're sending live under Lars, so ask us any questions you might have. We got a bit of a negative question here. Who asks? This Alice asks about Alice Weidel, if she's been working for globalists and bankers. Well, it's your party leader, but perhaps you can comment a little bit on this. Is she weak or strong on the globalist questions?
Well, I mean, of course, she worked as a banker, and I'm pretty sure she has more insight than many of us of how things are really, what's really going on behind the scenes. I mean, there's at least regarding this banking system, but we have also many other people in our party which know a lot about the system, sometimes because they worked for it on a certain occasion, and sometimes they just made a good research. So I know Alice Weidel personally, and I think she's a good character. She's a very, very focused on her goals. Whatever she wants to achieve, she will go for it. There's no stopping her, which is good. And I think she's honest in what she tries to achieve. I saw her at this huge rally on the 25th of January in the German city of Halle, where almost 5,000 people were present, and it was a marvelous happening where Elon Musk was connected with us as well. Was a kind of a nice surprise.
Yeah, so it was very interesting to see, and I mean,
and we were all surprised, actually.
Yeah, you were. Okay. I mean, you're not used to getting friends helping you.
No, not these kind of friends. No. Whenever we get, whenever someone says something about the AfD in Germany, it's most probably it's.
Yeah. Do you think this contributed to good election result? The live stream with Elon Musk,
actually,
or was it just nice to have?
Honestly, I expected more because of that. I was expecting something between 22 and 25%. Because of this, so because it doesn't happen all day or every day that one of the richest people on this planet do support your own party in this strong and convincing way. But as I said earlier, I think the people are not ready yet, because they still are afraid about their own identity. They don't. They still see themselves as not as Germans, and or as something that they can be proud of, as they're proud of their heritage, proud of their identity. And as long as they can't identify with their own heritage and their own identity as well, they still have this lack of really capable of voting for the AfD. It's just something like a disease. But as I said, if we are able to convince the people that there's nothing bad about being German, or nothing bad about our heritage and our identity, and we will be able to really make them believe in their own identity again. I think this is the point where we are able to go over 30 or 35%, which we need to take over government in Germany. Otherwise, it will always be, like a wishful thinking.
But I mean, positive sign is that the younger someone is, the more likely they are to vote for the AfD, and probably the more likely they are to be proud to be German. While if you look at the boomer generation, that is where the AfD has the lowest support. It seems that they have been totally broken, or that they cannot accept or even be proud that they are German because they've been brainwashed for such a long time.
Exactly.
But looking at the younger generation, which is also the generation where you have the most migrants. So if you look at the Germans in that generation, it seems that a very, very large part of them, in very high numbers, vote for the AfD. So is it so that Germany is changing?
Germany is changing, but very, very slowly, and maybe a bit too slow. Because what's happening with the young people is really promising, because it's indeed so that the young people, they do vote for the AfD, and that's also something which these old parties and everyone who's involved in deciding that young people are allowed to vote now, they expected that if they would make, if they decide that young people can vote in Germany, it would benefit them. But they miscalculated extremely. So in that case, we were the ones who were really benefiting from the fact that young people were allowed to vote. These young people, they want a future, in fact, and when they go to school, they see that if they compare their knowledge to the knowledge of for example, people or young people from Finland, they have to admit that they suck, because Finland took over the educational system of the former GDR, and they are still very successful with that. But of course, this woke Federal Republic of Germany, they had to change everything, and they screwed up everything, especially in the educational area. And
perhaps it was their intent, the purpose.
The result is that Germans are getting more and more stupid.
Yeah,
which is probably their intent. So if stupid people, you can easily manipulate, or you can manipulate stupid people much more easier than smart, intelligent people who are well educated and have common sense.
Sunda Menschenverstand, and especially if you cut away all the ties to your history, your pride, your identity, your relation to the family as an institution, you become this lonely, depressed, confused individual.
Mm-hmm.
Who cannot really cannot really differ truth from like fake news or lies, and cannot really differ right from wrong. They have no sense of, say, moral or ethical questions and so on. So, I mean, it seems that this tactic has been used first and foremost in the Soviet Union, but it was also used in all over the Western Europe. So in Sweden, Germany, and so on. So this was an explicit goal of the 68 left-wing movement, to make people de-identify with family, nation, and especially religion, the church, because these were major information flows to people. But I mean, hopefully something is changing, and even though the education system is broken, I would suspect that the society itself make people wake up. I mean, when you're being robbed or stabbed by a migrant who's not supposed to be in the country, then you might start to question things a little bit. Why is this happening in my own country?
Well, unfortunately, with some people it is the case, but it seems like there's still a huge number of people who do believe that these are just single cases. Yeah, they still believe the storytelling of, oh, that is just a single case. It's just happened once here, and you can't generalize this. Because and keep in mind, all these refugees, they have mental issues because of they are traumatized, and they find any possible excuse for these people. But if you find the wrong parking spot and you postponed your parking period, you get prosecuted by the law without any mercy. But these people, they are very much traumatized, so you can't really prosecute them for stabbing, for raping.
Yeah. They have no personal responsibility. It's the responsibility of the society, they usually say.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. I mean, how can you, because we mentioned, or you mentioned common sense, how can you claim to have common sense if you don't see this? If you don't see the simple connection that is obvious between the amount of illegal migrants and people which do not belong to our social to our way of living, to our Occidental way of living. How can you not see that this brings up tons of problems for society, and that could even easily destroy society itself?
I'm going to ask you a little bit about the future for the AfD now. And I wrote in Bild, which is like a mainstream magazine,
like the Sun,
Germany. Yeah, but even there, I wrote. I read a comment where the commentator or the person writing this thing commented and said that the AfD are mightier than ever before. They are the ones who can win the next German election, and that Weidel is the big threat. And anyone who's being involved in this new political coalition or supporting it is just feeding the elephant in the room. So even in this mainstream magazine, they seemed a bit afraid that the AfD will keep growing now, and that the AfD might even be the biggest party in the next election. Do you think that this is a likely outcome?
That is likely, especially if these parties at this point, like CDU, SPD, and the Greens, if they continue their way, if they continue with this kind of politics, then it is obvious that they don't have the greater good for the people in mind, but only their own pockets and their own wallets. And maybe there is even a higher goal for them, which means destroy Germany at any cost. Destroy the German society. Destroy the German language with their gender speak what they have. It's amazing. I mean, if you read a German text which is gendered, like in their way, feel like you're a scat man.
Yeah.
You can't really. I mean, a language like German, where we have Goethe, Schiller, Hölderlin, so many poets, so many philosophers.
Das Land der Dinke und Dächter.
They would drop that if they would read this.
But isn't it so that when it comes to the Union Party, back to them, we read a few times in Swedish media that they were promising to shut the borders and close the borders and not bring in any more migrants. Is this just lies, or is anything happening when it comes to that?
Well, you know, there's this saying where the biggest lies are always said before the election and after a hunt. I think it's from Bismarck or something. See what I got there. And, but that is the point. They are telling lies to the people to get voted, to get elected. Let's say it like that. And that's the point. We saw it with these last weeks in the German Parliament. What they tried to achieve with this law, with this migration law that they elect. How do you say that in English? Well, they came up with this law, which they. Oh, wait a second.
Was it this law that proposed that no one would be able to apply for asylum in Germany if they had been in another European country?
Yeah, exactly. It's verabschieden in German. Anyway,
skicka ut, återvandring, deportera. Okay.
And the point is that they did it once with the votes from the AfD. They got big. There was a big upheaval in this because everybody complained that how is it possible that you can use the votes of the AfD, and then they stopped with this movement, and we saw that all their ideas they had, it was all just a saying. On one hand, they decided to vote for raising the prices for CO2 again on 45%, but then again they came up and say, oh yeah, we have to do something about the migration issue, and it is all just storytelling to make the people feel comfortable. And to think, all right, now that CDU really got it, now they will do something against it. So it is time to vote for them again, and we can be reassured it is no problem. We can vote for them, and then after the election, people will see in just a couple of weeks that it was all just a storytelling. And
so your best guess is that mass migration to Germany will continue like before, or perhaps slow down a little bit?
Maybe maybe, and that's a big maybe. Maybe they will slow it down just to keep up the facade they build up. But still, I think they will have so many other issues to deal with that it might be even possible that they already forgot about it again.
Yeah.
What is really frustrating is the fact that, I mean, you see, there's a big difference between the people from the eastern part, from the former GDR, and from the western part of Germany. They have a complete different understanding of politics, obviously. Because the people in the eastern part of Germany, they see the AfD as what it is. It is the only option we have to save Germany. And what is really interesting is that so many people still believe this storytelling before the elections, and it is interesting because it's going on since more than, for the former GDR, it's 30 years. But before that, we have 60, 70 years of this storytelling. And it is always happening in the same way. The CDU is into power, it comes to power, then we maybe have 3 legislative periods for the CDU. Then again, the SPD comes to power because they claim they have the best ideas for Germany, and it goes on to the one side, then to the other side, and people do believe it over and over again. Then there is an alternative coming up, telling the people what's really going on in this country, what's really wrong, and they are telling the truth, and they don't believe the truth. They just prefer to believe in lies over and over again, and re-electing the people which lied to them in the first place over and over again, instead of just starting to think for once, realizing what's really going on.
In one way, you can understand why people are so reluctant towards waking up, because if you're waking up, you have to admit to yourself and also to your friends that you were betrayed, you were lied to, and you believe the lies. And no one wants to be the one who's easily kind of being cheated or betrayed. So instead, they keep saying that I was not lied to, and I don't think they are lying. And if in the future they change their mind and vote for the AfD, they will say, I never believed the lies. I mean, it's the same in Sweden, where people who start voting for the Sweden Democrats, I never believed the lies. Okay, but you started voting for the Sweden Democrats like 4 years ago. You were voting for these parties, mass migration parties, your whole life. I mean, it's okay. We cannot, obviously, parties like the AfD or Alternative for Sweden cannot grow if we don't let people change their minds. But I just realized throughout the 15 years that I've been in politics that you will very seldom get an excuse. You will never seldom hear from anyone that you were right from the very beginning. They will just pretend that they always understood what you were talking about. And what is very difficult is to be right before others see that you are right, because then people will think that you're a provocateur, you're a liar, you're not serious, and so on. It's the same in Sweden, where the same parties who now talk about restricting migration have been the ones calling people like me racist for the same policy. So it's very difficult, this whole thing, and obviously it's very frustrating to see how slowly the changes go. I mean, we would want big changes. I think that the AfD should have over 50% in a country in Germany's state of condition. It's only 20%, but hopefully the numbers are going to grow anyway.
Well, I think the same about the Alternative for Sweden. I mean, first time, I mean, I think it was 22 when I was in Stockholm supporting your rally, and this is also something I don't get. I mean, Sweden has also a big migration issue. And problems, and it is also like you people, you're telling the truth. You're telling the truth, and what you get is nothing for it. Just it's all far right. They are all right extremists and stuff like that. I mean, we all know these stories that have been told about us as well. Yeah. But this is also something where I mean, interestingly. I know that there is a new party forming in Lithuania as well, which will be called the Alternative for Lithuania, which is also very encouraging, and also I think it's a privilege for us, because we are honored if people from other countries do use this name, and think of it, if we really continue working, and if we intensify our cooperation, there could be something big growing out of it, because well, all these alternatives they can't be so wrong if they grew up everywhere all over Europe, and it's not an alternative for Germany and Sweden. No, it's for Sweden, and
exactly. But with the same common problem that the old parties, the established parties, have totally failed in running the country, and that you have these parties that claim to be opponents to each other while everything is in fact a political theater. It's the same in Germany, Sweden, it's the same in every country, that you have these parties and the media who pretends that there is a conflict, there is something going on. They are interviewing someone from the Social Democrat Party and someone from the Union Party, or in Sweden then the Moderaterna and the Social Democrats, and claiming that these are the acceptable opinions. These are the opinions that you have. And then they have basically the same opinion on foreign policy, on the European Union, on NATO, on migration. So what we want to do, and what you have already done, is to show that, well, there are other opinions than the ones that you might see only in the mainstream media. And these are, in fact, not competitors, they are companions, these parties. So I'm not playing their political theater. I'm not accepting that there would be any major changes between the 7 parties in the parliament. And now, unfortunately, also with the Sweden Democrats, I don't think that they differ enough from the 7 established traditional parties in the Swedish parliament. And that's why there is a need for alternative for Sweden. I don't know Lithuania in detail, but I know that you have a big network all over Europe, and especially the Baltic states and so on. So good luck in helping them creating and running their party. This is very good news.
I think we will help each other. This is the only solution. And I've already repeated myself in Lithuania regarding that issue, in the Baltic states in general, that this is not a German problem. This is not a Swedish problem. And as you just said it already yourself, it is a European problem. It is the same problem occurs to all our European nations, and we have to work together as the patriots, as the real conservatives, and actually even as the real Europeans, because we have our nation states in mind, and we have, in fact, on top of that, the greater good for Europe in mind, and this is not something which exclude itself.
Exactly. So, I mean, it's very easy. A Europe of nations. Europe is nothing without her nations. When you listen to the establishment, they only talk about Europe, but never about the nations. And it seems that they don't understand that Europe is built out of nations. The nations are what makes Europe. And Europe is fundamentally different depending on what region or country you are in Europe. Even Germany is very different compared to what region you are in. I mean, it's what we really are fighting for is, let's say, in that sense, a multicultural Europe on the European level, not with brought in so-called culture from Africa or the Middle East, but true European culture, national culture, regional culture, local culture, which is what makes up Europe. I mean, Europe is the most fascinating continent on Earth. I claim that it is. So
some say, and some people claim that that Europe is the only civilization. Anyway, it is a fact that there is a common European identity. I think we can all agree upon, and this common European identity contains German, Swedish, Norwegian, English, or British, and all the other identities combined. Because we are all genuine, we are all special in a certain way. We all have our specialties, and we can do certain things better than the others, and so on and so forth. So a European common identity is something we should indeed follow up and work for. Together, because we can't be successful as the alternative for Germany to rescue Europe.
And that's why it's important to see that the European identity is a complement. It's not a substitute to your national identity. Exactly. You have your local identity, you have your regional identity, which is quite important in Germany. I noticed when I studied in Germany 15 years ago that the Schwäbisch culture was quite strong in Baden-Württemberg, but and they have their dialect and so on. But hopefully the Germans will now also reconquer the national culture, the national identity, which has been, let's say, a bit controversial in Germany. Swedes should be much better reconquering their local and regional culture, I think. In that sense, it's a little bit opposite towards Germany, because I don't think it's as controversial to be proud to be Swedish as it has been to be proud to be German. Exactly. But on the other hand, the Swedes have lost quite a bit of their local regional identity, because everything has been so extremely centralized in Sweden, perhaps more than in Germany. But also we need the European identity and the European cooperation, but in another way than the current European Union, which tries to make everything like a one-size-fits-all solution. It doesn't work. No. That has never been the core of Europe. It's not the essence of Europe. It's actually fundamentally against what Europe has always been. So that's why I'm very happy that we could have this conversation today, speaking as a Swede and you as a German about our respective countries and our common Europe. And I hope that the ones who have been listening to this and commented also appreciated this discussion. I'm sure we're gonna keep talking also in the future, both here on the video link, but also physically when we meet each other in Germany and Sweden. So
it was a pleasure.
Yeah, we're reaching 1 hour. We're actually a little bit above 1 hour. Do you have any final comments, both regarding the election or just in general here to everyone listening to this show?
Yeah, final comments are always tricky. Anyway, I think we, as we all agree upon, I think, is we have to work together as European patriots towards the goal to protect our national states and our sovereignty, and we have to fight these do-gooders, these crazy voting people. I can't tell you how I despise them, because for them everything seems to be I don't know, kind of a pink blurry unicorn thingy. They are from my perspective far from reality. So I think what we have to do is trust in our country, trust in our identity, and trust on the fact that if we work together as true Europeans, we will always be successful one way or the other. And maybe it takes a bit more time than we expect, but it will work out.
These are very positive and inspiring words, Stefan. So thank you very much for
my best.
joining us in this show. And again, congratulations to the strong election result. Now keep fighting and never give up, and keep fighting for your cause and for a better Germany.
Thank you.
All right.
Likewise.
Tack alla som har tittat på det här samtalet som jag haft det här samtalet som jag haft med Stefan Korte från Alternativ för Tyskland. Stefan var och talade för oss i Stockholm 2022 och alltså företrädare för Alternativ för Tyskland i Brandenburg. Jag påminner också alla om att det är kyrkoval den 21 september. Det är ett viktigt val, så ni som vill göra en insats för Alternativ för Sverige i det här valet, glöm inte att rösta på oss. Om ni då har lämnat Svenska kyrkan i protest kanske mot vänsterstyret, så går det enkelt att återinträda i kyrkan genom att ansöka om att bli medlem igen via deras hemsida. Så glöm inte att göra det, för varje röst är viktig i det här valet. Och vill ni stödja oss redan nu, så glöm inte att bli medlemmar i partiet via vår hemsida. Tusen tack, och vi